Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Tell me if it's okay.
Not yet.
Now?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, thank you, Ioanna. I'm Ioanna Theodosiou from the Green Tank, a think tank based in Athens. We're working a lot on just transition and community energy. Today, we'll provide a short overview of the course of energy communities in Greece and their role in just transition. And I hope I will offer recommendations out from our experience that could be useful also to other regions across the EU. I will start by trying to answer the following question. Why are energy communities important for a just transition? Chris said a lot about that, but my first quick answer would be because they ensure energy democracy and they incorporate all the features needed to make the transition just. And these features are none other than active participation of local communities in the transition, the decentralization of energy resources, the development of renewable energy projects. There is obviously no question of switching to other fossil fuel, such as fossil gas, but only to RES. And they also secure direct access to the economic benefits of the transition for the local communities. And all the above create ownership of the transition and finally lead to the maintenance of social cohesion. And in the face of the monoculture of big RES projects in former coal regions, energy communities promote a model of energy production and consumption that is smaller in scale, adapted to local needs, and people-centered. But for local communities to benefit from the tool of energy communities, they need support. And the first step is a supportive and enabling legal framework. Now, let's zoom in the Greek case. The basis for the development of energy communities in Greece was a law adopted in 2018. The law provided for the definition of energy communities, who could participate, the activities an energy community could undertake, the establishment procedure, and others. It was a really enabling framework that led to the development of energy communities, and today we have 1,406 active energy communities nationwide. Very recently, in March, we have the second important legislative benchmark, the transposition of the two European directives that also Greece mentioned, the Renewables Directive and the Internal Market Directive. And there is a new law about energy communities that repeals the founding law of 2018, and it introduces two new categories, two new definitions of energy communities, renewable energy communities and citizens energy communities, and also has new provisions on participation, activities for each category and locality. In Greece, energy communities are defined as civil cooperatives, and their main aim is to provide environmental, economic, and social benefit rather than financial gain. Now, let's see how energy community projects developed since 2018. In Greece, energy communities are mainly active in the electricity production sector, and they operate two categories of projects. First, RES projects to sell energy for profit, and the second one, projects that aim to meet the energy needs of the members of the community or local needs, and do not generate any immediate monetary gains. In these two diagrams, you can see the development of energy community projects of both categories since 2018, when the founding law was activated. The first diagram shows the development of commercial projects that generate profits. Since 2018, they developed faster, and they present today the majority of the projects with 800 megawatts of installed capacity. And the second diagram shows how self-production projects evolved since 2018. We see a much slower development, and these projects are only 3.17 megawatts. So we can say that in Greece, Energy communities were mainly developed as a form of entrepreneurship to generate profits from electricity rather than to meet local needs or the needs of the community's members. But what is interesting is that during the last year, the year of the energy crisis, citizens turned to renewables and to self-production individually or collectively. You see here that the requests for self-production projects by energy communities multiplied by 5, while the projects for profit showed a much smaller increase. And specifically, the capacity requested for self-production projects by energy community jumped from almost 9 megawatts to 86 megawatts. Now let's turn to the lignite regions. Greece has 2 lignite regions, Western Macedonia and Megalopolis in Arcadia. And the energy tradition in these areas led to increased participation of citizens in energy communities. In Western Macedonia specifically, we see significant interest. There are 261 energy communities, and the region ranks 2nd in the number of active energy communities and 5th in the installed capacity of community energy projects nationwide. Also is 2nd regarding the requests for self-production projects. But the main picture, the big picture, remains the same as described before. The majority of the projects operate for profit. We have 100 projects of 63 megawatts of installed capacity and only one project of 300 kilowatts for self-production. And compared to Western Macedonia, energy communities' momentum in Arcadia, in Megalopoli, is clearly weaker. There are 21 energy communities operating, and we have 9 projects for profit of 5 megawatts and no self-production project. Crucial role in the deployment of energy communities play the available resources, and the tracker that Chris described is very useful. In Greece, we have now 2 concrete funding schemes specifically for energy communities in the lignite regions, but they have not been able yet to channel resources to the ground, to local communities. The first one is national resources for just transition. Greece has an innovative policy measure compared to EU standards. Since 2018, part of the public revenue from the auctioning of CO2 allowances are channeled for the just transition of the lignite regions. Until now, these resources amount 127 million. Of these, 62 million, corresponding to the years 2018 and 2019, have been allocated and are currently deployed. But only 3 million is earmarked for energy communities. And it's not certain yet that this measure will continue. Resources for the rest of the years still remain unused. The second stream is the Just Transition Fund. The Just Transition Development Program for 21-27 forces resources for energy community projects such as energy efficiency, heat pump installation, renewables, and others that amount up to 132 million, but those have not yet been activated. However, we can be optimistic that in the coming period, by activating all the above-mentioned funds, energy communities will be practically supported in the lignite regions. But for their further development, we need to remove other existing barriers. Apart from the funds absorption that I already mentioned, there is no priority to self-production projects with proven difficulties in obtaining financing and access to bank lending. Moreover, the limited grid availability becomes #1 problem at the moment. The rejections of projects requests by energy communities reach 49%, and there is a low rate of electrification of self-production energy community projects. And also distortions continue to exist at the expense of non-for-profit energy communities that develop self-production projects. So to conclude, energy communities are an essential tool for a truly just transition in the lignite regions. However, support is needed. From our experience, it is important to make sure that renewable energy projects by energy communities, that their investments are included in the territorial just transition plans. Although those plans have recently been finalized, there will be a review period. So it's crucial to render energy communities eligible for funding from the Just Transition Fund, the European Fund. Also, available resources, European or national, should be activated as soon as possible to support community energy projects. And those funds should focus on subsidies for the installation costs of energy community projects to meet own energy needs, and they can also support a development fund specifically for energy communities. We should also prioritize self-production projects by energy communities with strong citizen participation and give incentives for cooperation with large renewable companies and energy communities through shareholding. Moreover, we need an ambitious policy for community energy that should be reflected in the national energy and climate plans. So we need to set specific, ambitious and quantitative targets in the NECP, the current NECP revision. And finally, we need to protect energy communities from unfair competitive processes. We need to ensure equal terms of participation in the energy market for energy communities. That's the situation in Greece. Thank you, and happy to answer to your questions.
Thank you very much, Ioanna. Indeed, it was a really fascinating case study, and I think in the context of the just transition process, it's really crucial to have a specific country where something is happening in those heavily, for a very long time, heavily dependent on fossil fuels regions. So thank you for shedding a light on the situation in Greece. And my question, because I don't see anything in the Q&A chat, my question would be, as we are talking very much about a regional level, I was wondering about the role of local authorities in the development of energy communities. So do you see that they're maybe actively engaged in those regions, maybe not that much? And yeah, if they're not, what would be also your advice, how they could maybe strengthen their support?
Okay, being active in just transition means that local communities are active, and local communities are citizens, are municipalities, are SMEs, is everyone involved, everyone living over there. So yes, local authorities play a crucial role by activating people being active during the whole just transition procedure. And they are also very important players in the energy community field. In Western Macedonia, we have 6 energy communities created by municipalities, and we have one in Megalopolis. The energy community of Kozani was created in 2018, immediately after the first law we had in the country, and they are now preparing their first project. It's a solar PV of 8 megawatt. And as far as I know, all the others try to mature their projects and involve citizens. And Chris described also the energy community in Creta okay, it's a self-production project they operate, and the local authorities also participate. In other regions, for example, in Attica, we see NGOs also helping the creation of energy communities and involve citizens. So I think all players are needed at this stage, especially in the lignite regions. People turn to the municipalities, so they do have a significant role. And in Greece at the moment, they are trying to create a more participatory procedure, if I answer.
Yes, it definitely answers my question. I can see that there is one more question in the chat from Miłosława Stępień. With Greece's huge increase in energy communities last year, do you see the interest growing, or because of all the issues with setting them up, are people getting disheartened?
I'm not sure people getting disheartened. Okay, we have in Greece at the moment, we have to find a balance among the commercial projects and the self-production projects. And I think that the last year, what showed is that people turned to renewables, turned to energy communities. As far as I know, we have more and I also gave you the number, they multiplied by 5 the requests, which means that people see that their future is there, and they are trying to be active. I don't know how we will go on because of all the barriers I already mentioned, and specifically the grid inavailability. And but I don't think people are yet disheartened. No, I think we remain optimistic and struggling.
Good. So despite of all of the barriers and challenges, it's good to stay optimistic. So thank you for keeping it this way, Ioanna. So now we will move